forward, steal the election in an unlawful fashion. I say change that for a second to legitimate concern about the validity of the election. If that was the way you focused on it, which is a way to do it as applied, even with the facts, would what President Trump said on those counts be a protected speech? And the answer is it has to be, because the only thing that makes it fraudulent is the state saying it's false. Take every one of those and say, okay, it's not false. It's protected. The only reason it becomes unprotected, in the state's opinion, is because they call it false. And that's what Alvarez doesn't allow. In and of itself, it cannot be simply the content-based. It has to be contextual. And the contextual here is a political core value being addressed, elections and campaigning.
That my prediction is in this clip.
True for the September of 2021.
Hear what I have to say.
All it refers to the state.
Look, I'm replaying the hearing from, when was this? Last week? This was the hearing in front of Scott McAfee where defendant Trump's attorney, Sato, who's brilliant and fantastic, as are all of those defendant attorneys. Ashley Merchant, and I have to stop there because I don't know the names of the other attorneys. They're all good. We watched that live together. I believe it was last week. What was the date, give or take? This is my entire life has been rolled up into one very long day. It was 7 days ago. It was last week. Maybe it was 8 days ago. And that was the hearing before Judge Scott McAfee as to whether or not the indictment, the charges against the defendants led by Sato would be dismissed on the basis that the prosecution as applied was violative of the First Amendment, that all of the impugned speech that served as the basis for the indictment in the Georgia RICO case was protected speech, and the law as it's being applied right now was to sanction and effectively criminalize, criminalize protected speech. I said at the time that this is going nowhere, because you saw from the questions that Scott McAfee was asking, intent behind the words seems to matter. Is this not a substantive argument? Are these not substantive defenses? When Trump came in and tweeted out, stolen, we need to get the right electors, yada, yada. Was the intent behind that criminal or RICO-ish racketeering, whatever the hell you want to call it, or was the intent bona fide free exercise of political speech? And I said, it's too complicated. The longer it gets, the more complicated the arguments get, the less likely it is the judge is going to grant it at this preliminary stage. And lo and behold, don't chalk this one up to corruption. Chalk it up to predictability. You knew that it was going to happen, because if the judge didn't grant the other dismissal of Fani Willis, you knew he wasn't going to grant this, because it's far more nuanced, and the harder they argued, the more complicated they showed it to be, the more they basically demonstrated it needs to go to the merits of source. We don't know what the intent was. Was it criminal fraudulent intent? We don't know. I haven't read the judgment yet. This literally just came out 18 minutes ago, but I predicted it, and I'm going to give myself a pat on the back when I'm right, and I can still be vindicated by the Georgia Court of Appeal in terms of the disqualification of the Fannie. Judge rejects efforts to dismiss Trump Georgia case on First Amendment grounds. There you have your judge, Scott McAfee. What's he saying here?
Not issue a ruling on this issue today, though. Trina Kaufman joins us.
Okay, let's do this. A Georgia judge on Thursday denied an effort. This is McAfee. Denied the effort of Trump and the 14 others to dismiss the 2020, get that out of here, election-related case out of Fulton, ruling that the First Amendment does not protect the defendants from prosecution. I'm going to steal your stuff is First Amendment, but it's not protected speech. The 14-page order, Judge Scott McAfee rejected the argument put forth by the defendants that the charges violate the First Amendment protections of political speech and the right to petition Congress. Free speech, including political speech, is not without restriction, McAfee wrote. These excluded categories include speech integral to criminal conduct. It was clear that's what the state is arguing, and you can't get rid of that now without evidence. Fraud or speech presenting an imminent threat to the government that the government can prevent. Trump and 18 others, yada, yada, yada. So the former president faces 10 felony charges because Scott McAfee dismissed 3 of the other indictment charges related to the phone call, but didn't dismiss the underlying acts. Defense attorneys challenged the state law underpinning the charges, saying the alleged violations were protected political speech. You remember during the hearing, they were saying, are you challenging it on its face? I forget what the, is it a facial challenge or is it an as-applied challenge? And they all had to concede it wasn't a facial challenge because apparently this law has been tested before, and they say the law is not unconstitutional on its face. They were arguing as applied to this case, it was unconstitutional, First Amendment, yada, yada, and judge says, no mas, since the speech in question is alleged to have been made in furtherance of criminal activity. Even core political speech addressing matters of public concern is not impenetrable from prosecution if allegedly used to further criminal activity, the judge wrote. I'll get to the whole decision afterwards. Maybe I'll do a little Viva fishing vlog. Oh, by the way, if he's watching, I doubt he is, but he might get this later. CanCon has been inviting me to fish with him in Florida, saying he's going to show me how to Texas rig a worm so that I don't snag all of that weed on the bottom of the densely, what's the, not flora, fauna, the densely faunated, populated warm waters of here. CanCon, I've seen the messages, I'll get to you. I've never said no to a good day of fishing. So that's it. Scott McAfee, predictable ruling. We'll see where it goes from here. I'm still waiting for the Georgia Court of Appeal to vindicate my initial prediction that Fani Willis would get disqualified because I was wrong. As it turned out then, if it turns out to be right, I still claim the W. Like I did in Nicholas Sandman, when we said, is the judge going to dismiss the defamation case? And I said, hell no, but this was back before I realized how many dismissals are actually granted under U.S. law. And then the judge dismissed it. Then the judge reviewed his own decision and reinstated the claim. Nate, the great lawyer, this is how we met actually, called me out. And then I ended up being right in the long run. So if the Georgia Court of Appeals disqualifies the Fannie, I claim a W. On this one, I'm going to claim a W, but it was a very, very easy one to predict. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. What time is it? 1:37? Yeah, we're getting a show today. Oh, tomorrow. Tommy Robinson. I think we're either starting at 12 or 12:30, but it's tomorrow. 12 or 12:30. Tommy Robinson. He's written a new book, which is undoubtedly going to get him into trouble if it hasn't already. And we're going to delve into Tommy. I said, he says, how much time do you need? I said, if you can give 90 minutes, because I like to start the origin story, childhood, upbringing, and how you got to be public enemy number one, at least according to some. So that's going to be tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. For today, we are talking Jenna Griswold. Holy. They are engaging in lawfare election interference. I did a podcast this morning, and I don't want to screw up the name of the podcast. Sean Newman podcast. Canadian guy, good guy. Sean A-U-N, not A-W-N. Newman with one N, not two N's. And we were talking about like the fall of Canada, how it happened so slowly, then all at once, legislation after legislation. In the States, the weaponization of all aspects of the judiciary, the prosecution, the government, the media, to fornicate an election. They changed the laws back in 2020. They wrote an article about it. And I'm explaining to Sean, like, they're literally doing the same thing now. They changed the laws to let E. Jean Carroll sue Donald Trump beyond the statute of limitations. That window opened and closed. Now nobody can do it. But they got what they needed out of that one exception under the law. A revision, a change in the law that E. Jean Carroll spearheaded, according to her own lawyer. They changed the law there. And now they are weaponizing all aspects of the system to interfere with the election. And we're going to get to Jenna Griswold's latest attempt. When she was spanked down hard by the Supreme Court 9-0 that you can't willy-nilly remove the leading presidential candidate from the ballot because of your presumed self-executing insurrection clause. Take it and stuff it, Jenna. Well, now she's going to go literally try to change the law, seemingly to violate the Constitution. Jack Smith doesn't seem to understand the law. From what I understand, not such a successful prosecutor, exercising more bad discretion, bad judgment in his latest filing to Judge Eileen Cannon. Everybody's been saying, oh, not judge. Jack Smith threatens Eileen Cannon. Like, what the heck do you mean threatens? Like, threatening to go to appeal is not a threat. Anyhow, we'll break it down very simply because it's complicated. And my goal is to simplify it without further complicating it. What else? I had a couple of other losers, liars, and hypocrites in the header thumbnail. Jimmy Kimmel and that other guy there, Jon Stewart. We'll get to it. It's good, fun stuff. For those of you who don't know who I am, how did you get here? And what are you doing here? Viva Frei, David Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. Do basically daily streams, shorter videos called the vlogs, either out of my car, fishing, or in my home office, which it's accumulating license plates. We start on YouTube, Rumble, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where we have a wonderful community. I'd say if you want to support the work that I do, that Robert Barnes and I do, vivabarneslaw.locals.com is the best place. It's $10 a month, $100 for a whole year if you get it. There's tons of exclusive stuff for supporters, and there's tons of stuff open to the general public. We've got an amazing open community there, above average. Fantastic. Come, join, or don't join. Support or don't support. That's one way to do it. The other way, tips, chats, and whatever. But snip, clip, share away is the easiest, free way to do it. Hit that thumbs up, that like button. Free, easy. And you support the content creators who bring you the news in an entertaining fashion that you all so yearn for. The other way, that's beyond your control, is I got sponsors, people. We got sponsors. And thank goodness for the sponsors who are not afraid to sponsor the hinged, fringed minority holding unacceptable views. Although I tell you, we're at an inflection point where we're gonna bring back certain terminology. We are going to shift the Overton window back in their faces. But the sponsor for today, it's another one that I love, and it's another one that I use myself. Who doesn't love coffee? It's a trick question. Well, I know people don't like coffee, but some people don't like coffee. But coffee is good, and good coffee is better. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate shitty coffee? They let me swear. I, for one, I loathe shitty coffee. I do not like drinking coffee that doesn't taste like coffee. If I wanted tea, I would go to England and I would have some Earl Grey. There's a time and a place. But when I drink coffee, I want it to taste like coffee. This is why I'm introducing you guys to 1775 Coffee Company. It's great. I'd say it'll put hair on your chest, but I don't have hair on my chest. But it's good, and it'll wake you up in the morning. In 1775, that's a year before, 1776, the world awakened to a new era, and now 1775 Coffee Company is bringing you a coffee that embodies that revolutionary spirit, crafted with passion and precision. Our beans are ethically and exclusively sourced from the finest coffee farms in Bolivia. 1775 Company, they have a farm to cup journey, ensures the highest quality, authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. With each sip, your palate will recognize and appreciate the dedication and passion that goes into crafting a single brew. Someone had asked me, is it strong? It's strong. If you don't want coffee that tastes like coffee, go to Tim Hortons. If you want crappy burnt coffee, go to Starbucks. If you want rich, bold, delicious coffee, 1775.com/Viva. You'll get 10% off. Check out at your first order. It's delicious. I love it. Wake up to the taste of freedom, people. 1775.com/Viva. 10% off your first order. So make it a big one. It's delicious. The link is in the pinned comment. Viva Frei, I'm here. What did you miss? Oh, you missed the sponsorship. That's 1770. I'm joking. I'm not doing it again. Welcome. You can watch from the beginning at 1.5, though I'm told that gives people migraines and sometimes seizures. So don't do that. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, we got our first super chat here. William Tardy. And if you come in twice, you are retardy. Considering there was almost about 150,000 unverified ballots in Fulton, that should have been enough to raise suspicion. People were saying, I can take out the sponsor. People were saying that, who was it? It was the defense attorney for Harrison Floyd. He's like, yeah, you know what our defense is going to be? That the accusations that it was improper, fortified, fraudulent, that they're accurate and true. Let us go to trial. But look, we know what happened. We know that Georgia postponed having the hearing on signature matches, never did a proper signature match, and therefore didn't do one. We know what Time Magazine quoted as having done. Hold on, I'm going to get it. Time Magazine. It's worth repeating. And all you have to do is put in the word Time Magazine and cabal. And once upon a time, accusing people of operating in secret cabals was deemed to be anti-Semitic, racist, whatever it was. Now it's when they do it, cabal people right there. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream. A well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies, working together behind the scenes, fornication, to influence perception, propaganda, change the rules and laws, lawfare, steer media coverage, more propaganda, and control the flow of information. Oh, censorship. They were not rigging the election. What the fuck do you think they were doing if they weren't? Sorry, I'm sorry. It's too early to be swearing. I'm sorry. What the fudge were you doing if it wasn't rigging the election? What everything you just described, they weren't rigging the elections. The party told you not to trust the evidence presented before your eyes. It was their last request of you. George Orwell, 1984, paraphrased. They weren't rigging the election, you dumbass. They were fortifying it. And they believe the public needs to understand the system's fragility in order to ensure that democracy in America endures. Oh, they weren't. When they changed the laws and censored and steered information, they weren't rigging the election, dummy. Don't be stupid. Don't be daft. Oh. What the hell? Why did his wife marry him? Oh, I thought you were talking about my wife. Well, hold on. Why would Wade divorce his wife? Have you seen her? She makes Fanny look like I thought you were talking about my wife. And yeah, so that's the they changed the laws, literally. Like, people need to understand the only reason that E. Jean Carroll was allowed to sue based on her delusional, fevered frenzy, psychopathic hallucination, 2.5-decade-old hallucination, was that she was integrally involved in passing a law called the Adult Survivors of Sexual Abuse or something that opened a 1-year window for adults who were victims of sexual assault, allegedly, to sue. And she sued right within that window. That window all but closed up. It closed up now. Now, nobody can do it, but they got what they needed. What was it? $81 million, $65 million punitive, $11 million to the defamation reparation program, and $7 million defamation, or was it $3 million defamation? Okay, Canada is doomed. So we'll get there in a second. But for now, changing the laws. So Jenna Griswold, who's been crying on social media, not literally crying, but my goodness, it looks like that, has been crying on social media about being the victim of threats and abuse and harassment. According to her, she's received over 800 death threats. And one, by the looks of it, it seems that there have been 2 charges, and that predated the events at issue. So of the 800 allegedly bona fide death threats that she's got, nobody's been prosecuted? Maybe being told to F off on the internet, or you treasonous hag, if that's what she's getting in. Don't say that anyhow. It's not good. Maybe she deems that to be a death threat, when in actual reality, it's not. It's just people talking shit on the internet, because that's what people do on the internet. You shouldn't do it, nor should you come out crying after having tried to violate democracy, that you're getting threats if they're not actually bona fide, sanctionable threats. If she was getting legit, prosecutable death threats, well, something tells me the same weaponized FBI that went after all the January 6ers, all 1,000 plus of them, 900 human years in prison, something tells me they'd find an excuse to go after these people as well. All right, what's she up to, though? Have I pulled up the wrong tweet? I don't want to get ahead of myself. Jenna Griswold put out a tweet. It said, protecting democracy is my number one goal in life. So I've got to change the laws to do it. Here it is. My legislative priority, making it a crime to be a fake elector. Fake, not alternate. Fake. Why don't you say, my legislative priority to make it being an illegal elector is to make it illegal to be an illegal elector. Here's a head scratcher. If it's not illegal to submit alternate electors, you're not going to make it illegal by calling them fake electors or illegal electors, if what they are, in fact, are lawfully protected, constitutionally protected, arguably, alternate electors. And we'll get there. But don't worry. Jenna Griswold, protecting democracy, 1 ballot exclusion at a time. Write that down. That one was good, actually. She comes out and says, my legislative priority, making it a crime to be a fake elector, just passed the Colorado Senate yesterday. Yeah, because we've all seen how those Soros-funded jackaninnies are very, very eager to protect democracy by excluding candidates from the ballot. It needs to be a crime to try to steal a presidential election. Next stop, the governor's desk. You know who's trying to steal a presidential election right now? Jenna Griswold. By the way, check this out. This is hilarious. Look at her picture here. It's the pink one, right? Okay. Am I going to be able to search on Twitter? Remember, that's Jenna Griswold. That's her personal account. I don't know why she's tweeting official stuff from her personal account. Let me go to a Sec of State, Colorado. Come on, no, I don't want to waste too much time doing this, but I think I need to show it. Griswold secretary. Oh, she's not. She's Jenna Griswold, Secretary of State. She is the Secretary of State. Secretary of State. Remember, just have the picture of the pink one in your mind right now. Okay. Why can't I find her official Twitter account? She's really Colorado Secretary of State. Come on, Viva. Here we go. Colorado Secretary of State. And what do we notice? What do we notice, people? It's the same bloody picture, but on her Secretary of State, Colorado, she uses the blue blazer. And on her personal one, she uses the same picture with the pink blazer. Very bizarre. And do not stare into the eyes for too long or say Jenna Griswold 3 times at 3 a.m, or else she will appear behind you. So she's trying to make it a law here. What's she been up to in terms of that? Here, I went to find it. This is what Jenna Griswold has been up to. News release. This is from January. Let's see what they were saying here. It's very, very funny. Attempting to steal the presidential election should be clearly illegal. Hey, here's an idea. Maybe he didn't try to steal it, and therefore it's not illegal. Maybe that. But let's argue from conclusions and not towards them. What he did, we need to be illegal. So let's work from that starting point. The conclusion, said Secretary Griswold. This bill will make fake elector schemes a crime and ensure the will of Colorado voters by removing a candidate from the ballot. There are not enough middle fingers on anybody's hand here. Fake electors were central to the attempt to steal the presidency in 2020. HB 24-1150, the false slate of electors, would criminalize acting as a fake elector, engaging in a fake elector scheme, or conspiring to engage in a fake elector scheme to ensure this type of attempt to suppress the vote and take away Coloradans' voice in elections. It also bars something, yada yada. Okay, that's the goal. And then the draft provision. Strikeout means that they're removing it, and italic means it's an addition that of note. Each crime is punishable by a fine of no more than $10,000. They wanted jail time for this, by the way. In addition, a defendant who is convicted of the crime of perjury or subornation of perjury for knowingly and falsely swearing or attesting to the oath required by law for presidential electors, or inducing another to knowingly and falsely swear or attest to the oath required by law for presidential electors is disqualified, as required by the state constitution, from being a member of the General Assembly and from holding any office of trust or profit in the state. Well, at least they limited it to the state this time. This is how they want to control democracy, by the way. Fabricate crimes out of whole cloth that actually defy the relatively clear terms of the Constitution. Fabricate a crime out of whole cloth so you can go after your political opponents and bar them from ever holding office again. Of course, they want to do it going forward. They don't want to do it in the past. When Democrats did this, the alternate slate of electors, many of you know this. If you don't know it, you're new to the channel, and welcome. Many of you know this, and some of you won't. It's a legal theory that has been around for some time and actually has a precedent under the Nixon-Kennedy election of 1960. Listen to this, people. It's from Wikipedia. And so when it's from Wikipedia and it runs contrary to the preferred narrative, you know that it's a little bit more truer than they're saying here. But even if what they're saying here is true, Jenna Griswold wants to make lawful activity unlawful. She wants to criminalize constitutional conduct. In 1960, Hawaii experienced a close. Oh man, that dog's annoying. Oh, sorry. Get my hair back here. In 1960, Hawaii experienced a close presidential race between Nixon and Kennedy, and its electors' outcome was unclear by December 1960, when electors were required to cast their votes, although the nation had already been called for Kennedy, regardless of Hawaii's results. Both Democratic and Republican elector slates were created. Oh, Well, one of them has to be fake. How'd they do that? Oh, both parties submitted electors. One of them has to be fake, right? No. With the governor certifying the Republican electors as Nixon was currently in the lead pending a recount. Democratic electors would also sign and deliver their own elector certificates. You're criminals now. If Jenna Griswold has her democracy preserving ways, you're criminals. And assert a Kennedy victory using virtually the same language that the false Trump electors would later employ in 2020. It's amazing, eh? The Democrats would also submit and deliver their own electors, but when it's Trump's, they're false Trump electors. There is no discourse with dishonesty. There is only exposing it and clarifying it for those who are still reasonably intelligent, reasonably honest, and haven't sold their souls. There's no way. If you don't understand what's fundamentally deceitful and patently dishonest about this, you never will. And if you do, the Democrats deliver their own, but Trump's false electors, they would employ this very same tactic using virtually the same language. You know what that's called, dummies? Precedent. With no caveats mentioned for ongoing recount. After the recount, Hawaii flipped to Kennedy, and the governor certified a new slate of Democratic electors to send to Washington, D.C. On January 6, 1961, then Vice President Nixon received all three slates of electors' certificates and only certified the second post-recount Democratic slate. Nixon stated that the event should not be used to establish... Oh, that's nice. Nixon stated it. Oh, great. Nixon's the Supreme Court. A court case that incident resulted in a ruling that the ultimately certified Democrat electors were legitimate. That's weird. Oh, I thought they were criminals, according to Jenna's new proposed piece of legislation. A ruling or decision regarding the original uncertified slate of electors was never made in Congress or court. So they want to criminalize what is basically constitutionally protected because right now at this particular point in time, they think it's going to favor them politically, ideologically, and strategically. Literally changing the laws yet again, or attempting to. And then Jenna Griswold, a little psycho crybaby that she is, comes out on Twitter or gives interviews as to how she's being harassed and intimidated and threatened. Don't do it, people, because it allows the victimizers to pretend to be the victim. But something tells me that what she considers a death threat is what anybody who lives on the internet has seen time and time again. Don't leave your DMs open if you don't want to see weird messages from people. And by the way, you want to act like what people are going to wrongly qualify as treasonous because it's not treason under the law. But if you act treasonous, expect people to accuse you of treason. That's not a death threat either. You want to go out and circumvent. I'm not even going to say circumvent, undermine democracy. Expect some blowback from the people whose vote you are disenfranchising. But people, no violence and no actual criminal threat, because all that it does, it exposes you because they will come after you hard. They'll come after you hard regardless, so don't give them an excuse. And it allows the victimizers to claim to be the victim. Psycho Crybaby, great talking head song. Well, maybe I'm going to play that when we head over to... You play music on YouTube, the entire stream gets copy claimed. So that's what's going on with Jenna Griswold, preserving democracy, a la Time Magazine, 2000 election. Let me see, because I know that I've done it. Okay, we're live on Rumble. Okay, good. Okay, just checking there, and let me see what's going on in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Boopsy says, thank you so much, David. I hope you just mean from trying to make sense and make light of reality, because sometimes it's difficult to understand, and sometimes it's very unpleasant to realize, and so it needs a bit of sanity and a bit of humor. If you can't laugh, what can you do? The only way they could be fake electors if the names were made up and the people don't exist, says Boopsy. Exactly. The only way they would be fake electors is if Jack Smith comes in and says, I'm Jenna Griswold, and oh yeah, this is actually for Trump and not the elector for Biden. That's the only way it could be a fake elector. None of these people committed perjury. None of these people committed forgery unless they signed someone else's name, and none of these people were fake. They were clear, transparent, in their own name, alternate slate of electors, the exact same way it went down in Hawaii, and that's it. Boopsy says, exactly, David, it helps me immensely. Good. Well, we're going to have one palate cleansing laugh before we head over to Rumble and Locals. because Jack Smith is Jack Smith, it's not totally related. So we're going to have a palate cleansing laugh. And it highlights the hypocrisy, the double standards, what I call the lawlessness. We're going to start with Jimmy Kimmel. And I defy anybody to try to copy claim this. I'm doing it. Okay. This is what Jimmy Kimmel had to say the other night. I don't watch this scumbag because he's a scumbag and I don't like him. I don't, sometimes you judge people, you meet them in real life. You might feel a little bad for giving them a hard time, a little razzing on the internet. Jimmy Kimmel's a certifiably bad man. Anybody who says, hey there, Wheezy, you didn't take the little Jimmy jab, go, you don't get health care. This is the George Soroses of 1930s. I guess it's late 30s, early 40s. But here, this is what you have to say.
Traveling to Japan, I realized that this place, this USA we're always chatting about, is a filthy and disgusting country.
Pause it right there. This is a filthy and disgusting country. Now, he might be right if he's talking about New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, big cities, California. When I went to California and I went to fill up my gas, fill up the gas before bringing the car back to the airport. Dude, countryside's beautiful. Big cities are filthy cesspools. When Trump said that about DC and Baltimore, he was called racist. When Trump referred to other countries as allegedly, because I don't actually believe he even said it, but allegedly referred to other countries as shithole countries, it was racism. Now all of a sudden you got Jimmy Kimmel, Double Standard McGee, Mr. Blackface himself, Karl Malone, Mr. Wheezy, you can go die because you didn't get an experimental jibby jab. Now he's saying it's a filthy hellhole, America.
We were in Japan for 7 days. Not only did I not encounter a single dirty bathroom, the bathrooms in Tokyo and Kyoto are cleaner than our operating rooms here.
Oh, you should totally go to socialized medicine. That'll make your operating rooms much cleaner. I'm not playing the rest of this clip because I don't like him. So this is the big joke. Oh my goodness, America's filthy. I was told by one individual that hold on. I remember something. Right? Remember this guy. Didn't he say something about the filth is the price of freedom?
Because the difference between our urinal-caked, chaotic subways and your candelabred, beautiful subways is the literal price of freedom.
Literal.
But
what was he talking about? Because it's very important. Because back then, Tucker Carlson was comparing the squalor of American subway systems to the cleanliness of the Russian subway system. And that you can't compare. You can't compare a free country to the tyranny of Russia. And so there, the comparison was between a free and dirty America or a clean civil law and order tyranny of Russia. This is the fuller clip.
Subway station that normal people use to get to work and home
It's a
every
museum.
single day that's nicer than anything in our country. There's no graffiti.
A flipping
there's no
museum.
Filth, no foul smells.
Probably no stabbings.
that's a nice subway. That's a very... Although, to be fair to the New York City system, it was constructed in 1904.
Yeah, subway
out of
cake.
urinal cakes.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I don't even get the joke.
Great engineer Giuseppe Pisse everywhere.
I have no idea what joke even means.
Caked, chaotic subways and your candelabred, beautiful subways is the literal price of freedom.
Now, what do you have to say about that and Japan, John Stewart, not John Daly. The Stewart on the Daily Show, not John Daly on the Stewart Show. Is Japan not a free country? Oh, so you are saying cleanliness is not directly inversely correlated to freedom, as you were making that stupid argument in Russia. Japan is a pretty free country. You know what it's not of a country? It's got closed borders. I mean, it's easy because it's an island. It's not particularly homogeneous. I don't say that that's the reason here, but I'm just saying, for all the things that these virtue signaling buffoons like to pretend makes America somehow singularly, uniquely open, wonderful, which I tend to agree with. I mean, it's a beautiful melting pot of a country. But when you're trying to distinguish the filth of big city nonsense in this country, and you have to compare it to Russia, oh, there, it's an easy one. But Japan is clean. Japan is law and order, among the safest countries on earth. It definitely has other problems. It definitely is not as homogeneous or as open a society as America is. But like Thomas Sowell said, there's no right answers. There's only trade-offs. But what is clear is that the trade-off for filth does not need to be freedom. And by the way, I don't want anyone thinking that I'm actually I'm not rushing to Russia. I ain't rushing to Russia. I do know that you don't want to criticize Putin within Russia. But whether or not Russia is the Hitlerian boogeyman that the West makes it out to be, I'm fairly certain that that's not the case either. Anyway, so that's it. So Jimmy Kimmel is a disgusting human being. Jon Stewart is just unfunny. And while everyone comes over to Rumble as we prepare to end on YouTube, link to Rumble, let me read a couple of super chats, a few Rumble rants. We got a super sticker from CR. I hope you didn't mean to put in a comment. Thank you very much for the support. And that is, I hope you didn't mean to put in a comment and accidentally hit the sticker and you had a message and now you have to do another. Okay, thank you for the support. We got Ginger Ninja is in the house. I'm going to the bottom. Ginger Ninja says, I listen to you at 1.5 speed all the time to catch up. I also have seizures. Coincidence? I think not. Now I'm going to wake up with the liability lawsuit. Why shouldn't I call a treasonous hag a treasonous hag? I must always speak the truth. The only reason, Ginger Ninja, is because legally speaking, treason legal definition. The only reason is that treason is the only crime defined. It's an act of waging war against the United States or materially aiding its enemies. And so I think that the only reason, whether or not we're in a de facto culture war, ideological war, whatever, just as a matter of pure fact and law, we're not at war. So I don't think, unless it's like aiding and abetting, I don't know, a country that we have a declaration of war against, but I don't think there's any of those that exist at this point in time. So with that said, actually, while this number trickles under 1,800 on YouTube, we've got 2 tips over on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Spam Ranger sent a $5 tip, says, working on amicus brief to make Jack Smith more angry. How to serve it pro se in Florida from California. Deadline is today. What is the wisdom of the audience? I give no legal advice, especially when I do not have any idea as to what the proper answer would be. And then we got Carol Meadows, $1 tip, says, Japan has closed borders and doesn't allow immigration. No, they have their own issues. It's not like they don't have issues, but they have different issues. Okay. Why'd the number go up? We're at 1817. Now we should be at, it's 1801. I like this. This is like, and then we're getting into the Jack Smith motion. I'll just give the spoiler alert. Jack Smith didn't really threaten anybody. It's a very weird thing. Like, the left hates threats when they think they're coming from Trump, but then they love them when they want to pretend that they're coming from their attack dogs, Jack Smith. So it wasn't really a threat, but you know what? I'm not going to get that neurotic. We're ending on YouTube. Come on over to Rumble or come directly over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Yesterday, for those of you who don't know, or if you're not a member, I was in the car. We had a live stream from the car. Link to Locals. Boom. 1818. That's a lucky number. We're going to end it right there. Okay, ending on Rumble, on YouTube, going to Rumble, and the link to vivabarneslaw.locals.